Hi everyone. Good morning. It's always fun to be up first and talk ethics, right? It can be a bit of a contentious issue. I'm going to talk, there's AI in there. I'm going to talk more around today the sort of ethical thoughts that we've had and the journey that we've been on through the last few years. What really prompted this session was more going through security and risk assessments with organizations, both private and public, both here in Australia and overseas as well. So a bit of a journey around that. For those of you who don't know me or know me from Zoom, or there's various different things, quick, who am I? So I've actually been with Acorn coming up to 5 years now. I know some of you have been with us even longer, so thank you for that. But I remember when we were about 11 people DC, probably when I joined or something like that. So I've really seen the growth, and I'm fortunate to have been part of that. From a background perspective, so I work in the product team. The title is Head of Capabilities. What that actually means is anything you see in the capability module I've been part of, but you also may have time with me for things like supporting the implementations around capabilities, etc. In the spirit of lifelong learner, I'm very nerdy. I'm into the academia, I'm into the theory, and I like the bridge to bring it into the real world as well and the practical side of things. Outside of my Acorn time, I'm also a member of ARI for you all who are members of ARI, and I also am a facilitator now since early 2024, I think, on developing a capability framework. So having looked at so many, having worked with so many organizations, etc., ARI got in touch and were like, it's a really niche area, can you help? And my grounding in this whole area for the last sort of 10 years, does everyone know CB? They were the corporate executive board by Gartner, but they used to have the HR Leadership Council. They used to do capability uplift. So that's where I got my education basically on it. So very much grounded in research. So that's who I am. All right, before we jump in the spirits of ethics in AI and declarations, I am using AI right now. I'm going to use AI throughout this talk to support this talk. And I'm going to ask you at the end how you think I am using AI. So keep an eye on it. It could be anything like, what is he doing right now for AI? I don't have smart glasses on, obviously, you can see that. I don't believe in those because you could be recording someone at any time, but yeah, I'm declaring that I'm using AI right now, and that will finish at the end of my session, and I will be asking you. Cool, alrighty. First of all, what I usually do here is we see all these different words, and they're really like mixed on the good and different things like that. Is anyone caffeinated enough to share a word or two, just shout them out on their thoughts generally about AI and capability building? It's sort of super important for what I go on to next. So
I wouldn't have a clue how to use AI for capability building.
Okay.
Efficient.
Efficient, that's good. Excited?
Balanced.
We're going to do workouts. I'm not allowed to ask you what you mean by it, but we'll chat to you afterwards so that I could unpack it a little bit more. Anybody else?
Infancy.
Sorry, I miss it. Infancy? What do we? Yep. Anybody else?
Security nightmare.
I hear you. To go back to what triggered the creation of this thing, writing the documents, answering the questions, absolutely, yeah.
Rapid iteration.
Yes, crazy quick, right? Yeah.
Uncertainty.
Yep. All right. Well, might move on to the next one, and I want to go on a bit of we'll do a bit of a quick journey first. So, when I think about the ethical challenge, rapid interaction. Rapid building, it's moving very quickly. It's very hyperbolic. There's a lot that I read in the news. It's very clickbaity and things like that. What can it do? What can't it do? There's a lot of myths out there. There's also a hell of a lot of truths about us being good custodians of the technology as well. So the reality is, though, it's already shaping everything we do today and has been for a while now. So if we're not thinking about the ethics more broadly, we really should be and considering that. So to quickly go, you shouldn't always look at history as a precursor to performance in the future, but we're going to do that a little bit because we have sort of been on this journey in a roundabout way before. right? So if you look at the first industrial revolution, and a couple of different definitions out there, but more broadly, it was moving from just hand labor to mechanical, making it machinery, get going, all those sorts of things. And the impact with this was, in a capitalist society, we can really work people. This is good. So there's a challenge there that we've got to think about ethically, and the outcome from an ethics perspective was things like child labor laws. So that was something that we went on as a society before. Then we got to the second industrial revolution, so we got steam power, electricity, we got all these elements. And then the consideration became about, well, we've got these big machines now, like what on earth are we going to do with this side of things? And that's where we actually found occupational health and safety laws came in and that side of things. So we reacted. Then we go into the third industrial revolution, which actually one could argue started around the 1950s. We began to get data, we began to get digital transformation. It really kicked in sort of the 90s as we got the web. And then again, we all acted as a society and governments, et cetera, and we now have things like GDPR and the Privacy Act and all that good stuff as well. And that leads us to where we arguably are today, which is the fourth industrial revolution, and there's some argument if we are or if we're not. Within that, artificial intelligence is very central to that machine learning, that digital age in a nuanced way that we're going into, and what does that actually look like? So that's what we've been thinking about a little bit, and that's what I'm going to talk about and share what we've learned, especially in the last 2 years, as we've really focused hard in this area. So if I was to distill it down, I lump the ethics in AI in sort of 3 areas that I observe in the conversations I have. So number 1 at the top there is, how are employees individually using AI? And what I mean by that is most government is Microsoft shops, so utility of Copilot. You may know ChatGPT or Gemini or different large language models of AI, but like, how are they using it? Are they doing it the right way? Like, what are the dynamics around it? So I'll go into that in a second. So that's bucket 1. Then bucket 2 is how you look at an Acorn. So SaaS, software as a service provider, so any technology you use, like, how are they using AI? Are you aware of it? Are you clear? Does it align with your expectations? And then the third bucket that is actually commonly overlooked until you scratch the surface a little bit is, I put in here automation of decision making. It's actually AI and workflow automation. So you're seeing more and more of disparate systems being connected. So people will talk about APIs and webhooks and getting data from all these different places. You can now embed AI as a layer in between that. And we need to think about that decision making and the impact of that and what that means for our organizations. So they're the 3 key buckets, but we'll just break them down a little bit one at a time. So how are your people using AI? And before I click through my bullet points, I was reading something the other day, which was some larger enterprises no longer know for sure who are the highest performing graduates, but they do know which graduates are the best at using AI, which is a really interesting take, right? Because they're grappling with that. So what are the things that we look at? So training on responsible AI use, what does that look like? What is responsible AI use? How does it align with the values of your organization? Because ethics and values are properly aligned. Is it declaring and things along those lines? Do you have clear objectives for AI use? Like, what is the purpose of this? Making sure people aren't over-reliant. We're very, very progressive with our use of AI. I use it a lot for my daily work, and we talk about how we use it and stuff like that. The one time it was down, I realized I was a little bit over-reliant on it, rewriting my emails, for example. It turns out I got very lazy at writing emails. So it's a good one to call out. So you want to avoid that side of things. And then, because I spend a lot of time looking at capability frameworks with my job and stuff like that, you've got to make sure that there's ensuring ethical alignment in there as well. It's a hot topic with people. You've got early adopters, you've got your late adopters. The other thing I think about that's not on here is fairness and equity as well. I was at dinner with my mother-in-law the other day, and we talked about it, and she's coming to the end of her career. She's a school psychologist, and she is completely overwhelmed with what they're pushing. And when she told me what they were pushing, it was like literally a little button on your email in Gmail that tidies up your email or something like that. It was very entry level and she was feeling overwhelmed. And that's zero reflection on her. It's absolute reflection on the training and the fairness and the equity and all those things that are needed. So that's bucket one. But before we go into number two, I see this a fair bit, and I don't know if it's generally a thought of everyone's, but this belief that you are uploading company secrets and you are uploading private information, etc. Yes, if you log into a ChatGPT and you just do it without a login and any follows, that can be a possible thing you're doing. But a lot of the models, the large language models, so the AI, you can turn this off. You can do it in a secure way. And it goes back to my further point about how are we training people? Are we showing them how to use it responsibly so that they can get the most out of it? I was actually just on a call before this, and I brought up a piece of research that I'll give you the link if you need it afterwards, but it just came to my mind earlier. It's called the cybernetic teammate. Bit of a mouthful. But the cybernetic teammate is the first research to come out of Harvard that shows that AI used properly by an individual, by one person, outperforms a team of 4 in thinking if it's trained and used properly. And I think we've all sort of been waiting for research to validate that side of things. So anyone wants it, I'll share the link. But bit of a myth, you can use it. You can, in a careful way, share limited information. That doesn't mean I advocate for you putting the financial budgets in and stuff like that or anything ridiculous like that. Alrighty, so companies like Acorn, how are we using AI? What are we doing about it? How have we thought through it? All these things. So first of all, understanding how we implement AI. Bringing that to life a little bit is, if I was a new buyer, is AI immediately switched on and exposed to everything? The answer should be no. You should not in any way, for whatever platform you procure, AI should be able to be not within the platform as a starting point, right? So that's the first thing. You need to understand that. You need to know where it is in the platform. You need to know the job it's serving as well. Might sound like an obvious one to the security nightmare and stuff like that. Ensuring data privacy and security, it's incredibly important. If you ask any of a provider with all the different systems you have, they will be able to tell you instantaneously in one line how they do that. If it's someone who's not on the product side like me, they might not know, but someone like me or DC or someone like that should be able to answer you instantaneously. That should be at the core of the ethics of what we're doing. Transparency. So what I mean by clarifying AI transparency is what its role is, how it's used. Is it a drafter? Is it a writer? Is it a recommender? Is it a thinking? Like all these different things. But where in the platform is it? Is it clear? Is it clear to admins only? Is it clear to users? You have to think about all these things as well. So another question that you can ask of providers. And then not only that, like they're like, why behind it? Like, are they just putting it in because we're a private software company and AI, if we put AI in our URL, will grow quicker? No, it's like you got to have thought about these things very carefully and properly, and you want to get under the hood to the foundations behind that. So these are actually old documents now. They're not designed. They're now designed and very flashy and stuff. But when we started on all this work, you can see here we've got a responsible use policy. We've got how we work with data. We've got all these elements, and I led all the iterations of writing, the conduit between our data privacy officer, CTO, and Sam. You were involved. They were like a lot of stakeholders, but I sort of led it and pull it together. And we had to think very carefully around like responsible use, like what are the ethics and the guiding principles. And it's very simple how we actually did it. So originally we started with the CSIRO's principles. So that they were a really good benchmark for us to really settle in and define what we wanted to use and what we would communicate with the market. And then industry released some AI ethical principles and guidelines last year. They're really good. There's 8 of them. Fairness of society, well-being's in there, transparency's in there, accountability. At any stage can you contact people. But it gives you that grounding as across the board on how the ethics play into what you are doing to make sure that you're doing the right things and you've got those guiding principles. I like them personally because they're principles, and that means that I don't have to follow some arbitrary rules that don't necessarily translate to our environment, but principles are broad enough that we can adopt them ourselves as a foundational way. So you can access these documents anytime, you can ask us for them, and they underpin everything that we do. And these are the ones that get us through the security assessments. So we can talk about that as well. All right, then that third bucket that I mentioned was around AI and workflow automation. So that is connecting different systems, AI embedded in the middle. How does that look and work? Is it automating decision making? What do I need to think about, etc.? So I think a key bit here is mitigating the biases. So there is a risk around that, of course. AI is fantastic, it's all very exciting, but humans still built it, right? So there's still there's going to be some sort of bias in somewhere. So how can we do that? My personal view on it is that AI is an augmentation tool, not an automation tool. I think there should be a human in the loop at the end of everything, and it should equivalently be a drafter. I don't think it should be empowered to do everything on its own. That's just what I believe. Maybe the technology will improve and all that sort of thing, but I feel quite strongly about that. I think it should speed up the grunt work, do the low value work, and free up every person to do more high value in their work. And I think we'll see more workplace well-being with that as well. You do need to prioritize data governance, of course, goes without saying. Goes back to the security side of things as well. And then again, just that ethical oversight layer. If we are connecting disparate systems with AI embedded in the middle, what does that look like? How does that work, etc. The video I'm about to show you is the CEO of a company called Anthropic. And Anthropic are the company behind models like Claude, if you've heard of that. And this was from a podcast I was watching November or October last year. So I have to state these things because that's old in AI terms. But there's a bit of noise in the background because to go on the tech side of things, I just screen recorded it because I didn't know how to clip it, something like that, so bear with me. But I thought it's really good to hear how, because we're dependent on the large language models, so the database, to do our work. So I'm interested in, it's like supply chain, ethics in supply chain. I'm interested in what they think. And I thought this one caught it best. So.
And they're then tested both internally and externally for their safety, particularly for catastrophic and autonomy risks. So we do internal testing according to our responsible scaling policy, which I could talk more about that in detail. And then we have an agreement with the US and the UK AI Safety Institute, as well as other third-party testers in specific domains to test the models for what are called CBRN risks, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear, which are, we don't think that models pose these risks seriously yet, but every new model we want to evaluate to see if we're starting to get close to some of these more dangerous capabilities.
For me, what's important when we talk about ethics is there's loads of different models that we can use with our own AI, so large language models. I want to know that they're taking it seriously because they're moving incredibly quickly, and I want to do my due diligence. And I just think it's an important part. So anyway, underpinning those three use cases is governance and compliance as well. So obviously it goes without saying, adhering to the data protection laws. If you have ethical AI policies, we are at a stage where as we do more of this and it becomes part of our world in an even clearer way than it is, that this is key. The governance teams that you have already, where does this sit, etc. But the continuous education for them. Like, what does that look like? How do we keep up with it? Things like that video I played you, no, they don't need to listen to the podcast I listen to, but you need to have your finger on the pulse. Does anyone want to elaborate and share why they feel like they're on the right track? What gives you that feeling? Because in the spirit of constructive conversation, there isn't a policy in place. So does anyone want to share?
I think for me, just because it makes sense, I understand what you're saying, but there's obviously more to learn and there's a long way to go. So.
It's also like, there isn't a blueprint per se out there. I was looking for that. I was looking for where is a There's like something I can give you afterwards that's like a guide or something. And there's loads of good APS level things out there, but there's not like for the free buckets that I see, how can you hold your SaaS providers accountable? There's not yet that exists. So the other thing is there is I'm having to figure it out moment as well. And I think when I think back to the goal of the talk, it's to shine a light on it, share what we're learning. But this isn't one of those aha moments where I've got all the answers either. It's sort of like a shared journey with a new area. Anybody else?
Yeah, I feel like with going through the upheavals of society,
Yep.
the revolutions, kind of like that riding the wave. Everyone's had to go through in the past for the first industrial revolution, and then the web as well, not knowing
Yep.
how to do it. So I feel like this is just one of those times where
It is.
you have to understand that no matter what's going to happen. So the more we can understand, the better we'll be.
Yeah, I really good point. Is massively an education piece. And it's an education piece from every stakeholder to share where they're up to. So we're a small part of a very big system at Acorn, but we're custodians of one part, and we should all be playing a part to help people make the correct answers. And that's how we'll see more policies come into play and stakeholder engagement and things like that.
I think it's good. We're definitely on the right track. I'm always a bit cautious about how you remove unconscious bias when creating the underlying capability of it. And it's very difficult, but that's always in the back of my mind, how do you redirect it without creating more biases? How do you...
I think about that. So we have, for capability discovery, you've got a job description recommender that you put your JDs in and it goes into the capabilities, and then, the bias is what defines a capability, which is, to us, a capability is a group of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that drives a business outcome. Is that a bias? But that's how we've set it up, and it's other people might see it differently. And then what parts is it parsing and reading? And there is these small elements to it. And I think about it too. I don't have an answer, obviously. You can tell I don't. But it's I think the way I've decided the best step forward is to acknowledge it and say this is how we thought through it and have a good way to articulate that. So if people don't agree, at least they know, and that's where the transparency comes in. But yeah, it is an interesting one.
I think it's a bit of a slippery slope because we live in a world of convenience, and AI is very convenient, even in its kind of still in its toddler stage. Where is the line of how convenient can it be before people just start using it to overtake work of people?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just, there's not enough rules around AI, just as we have as a community. And even if we do start implementing rules, AI just continues to build and build. So there's just, with the further industrial revolutions, they were kind of set, they were oh, this is a safety hazard, don't do this anymore. AI is much more broad. How do we regulate something that is just growing as quick as it is and as big as it can become?
Mm-hmm. The way I thought through it is the reason to do a deliberate conversation around ethics and values, because it's the other thing with ethics and really scratching at it is the tension it can create internally if people have values conflicts and stuff like that. So it's not even the ethics side of it isn't a simple conversation when it comes to where the line is. And then if you scratch even deeper, value misalignment is one of the biggest things around what causes psychosocial hazard and psychological distress and things like that. So you really can go down a rabbit hole if you want to. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. I think when you have robust discussion on it, you are right. We live in a world of delayed gratification and all those sorts of things. Hopefully it was in one of the other slides that I touched on it, but it's how you train your people and the guidelines. We don't want to lose critical thinking, constructive debate. We don't want to lose all the things. I don't think we will. I just don't know what it looks like, right? So I personally think there'll be a line that will have to be a lot of things where we'll learn a harsh lesson somewhere, and I don't know what that will look like, unfortunately, which is maybe a sad reality. But how do you think I've been using AI throughout this session? You've probably looked at my clicker, my watch, Has he got anything on there? He couldn't even work the TV. Was that smoke and mirrors? What do you all think? How have I been using AI? Please go.
Aside from the assets, like the images and the
Yep.
icons, I feel every slide with text in the table was AI generated.
Do you know what? From memory, I don't think it was. No, I think I wrote it. Oh, do you know what I do a lot of? It could have been I write and then I get it to tidy up because I'm a bit wordy. Yeah, I'm a bit. It's like what can be said in 10 words was 20 was written. That is it, but I'm actively using it now, agnostic of slides. Still using it, but it's a good one. But I do use it for. I tell you what I did do with it. I dropped the slides in when I first finished it, and I asked the custom one I've got, like, this is the audience, this is the outcome I'd like to drive to. This is my experience, so it needs to stay in this lane. Can you help me think through it? It had all my notes in and stuff like that, and it critiqued the front, so I changed the starting point. It was really good. I'd overlooked something. So that's one, not the answer to now, but I did use it that way, and I was really appreciative. It was like having a mini coach or something.
You've got a microphone on, so recording to make a transcript afterwards.
Well, I think I'll give you that one, but it's not the microphone. So on the back of my phone here is a device called Applaud. You see the little red lights on? And what that's doing is that's picking up everything in here. And then I spoke at the National HR Summit a few weeks back, a slightly different talk. And what it's doing is it takes the transcript, but it also puts it into session notes. It also puts it into mind map, and it does everything for you. And it's all in this little thing here. And that I can also connect, so workflow automation. I can connect to different things. I can get it to summarize. So one of the things I actually did at the National HR Summit is we had a little AI agent running, and if they emailed me a certain subject line, it would trigger that automated send them the notes. So just to give you an idea on why AI is everywhere, where does it stop, where does it start? Like, I obviously need to declare at the start that's recording, but it does show you. And the other interesting thing is with this, I just nerd on this stuff, is if I'm on a phone call, I can actually double click that and it can record the whole phone call now. That's a real ethical conundrum in a way, right? Because you should declare it every time. But I don't know if everyone will, right? So, yeah. But then also, are the notes correct? You have to go through all those things. So, cool. Yeah, so there you go. Bit of experience for you on that. We touched on it there, but any questions for me? Just generally about ethics, AI, how we think through it?
I'm with you. I just feel like kind of a lot of catching up to do. I feel like a bit of a dinosaur around it.
It's funny, right? I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but it's like, it's going so quick and it's incredibly hard to keep up with, even if you work on it 38 hours a week. So it's like, the movement is incredible. The other thing I think about is, I read all the main news. There's a lot of noise from not our software areas, but a lot of money going in, which creates a lot of noise and a lot of stuff that I read that I just know it's not agentic yet. I just know it can't do these things. And then that creates the clickbaits and all of those things. So I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, but you might be more further along than you think. And then someone like me who has something like this and works with it, I also enjoy it and I'm a nerd, so I'd be more progressed in that regard. So, yeah. Please.
Obviously, most of us in the room are APS and we follow a lot of guidelines given to us by usually not our area. Are you guys working with the DTA or government to make sure that this fits into all of the policies?
Yep. So I was I'll give you an example. So I was with the APS Academy yesterday. We're doing a rollout with them. They're going to be using it in there. We went through full security and risk with them on everything I've talked about. I wouldn't probably be as comfortable if I hadn't been through that process talking about it in this room. I'd probably do it in a private sector room. But yeah, it's making sure it aligns with everything, can be used, can be approved. Going back to like using the industry principles and CSIRO before that and making sure we're up to date on all those things. Making sure the AI is in an IRAP environment, stuff like that. So, what I will say is it's like, I am constantly learning as well. So there might be little tweaks as I go I need to make. So it's like trying to keep my finger on the pulse around that. Was there a question down this way? Or?
I was just curious about where you stand on AI yourself. Like as you're learning about AI, what part of you is saying I'm really excited to and really interested to apply it in this setting, but also I'm just curious about the thought process.
Yeah. I've got my Ben answer there, and I know it's I'm trying to think of my Acorn answer at the same time, so I'll try and blend them together, right? For me, we've talked a lot around how the working week isn't designed for the world we live in today. You've got my wife and I, we've got a 5 and an 8-year-old, there's 80 hours there, we're crushed at the weekend, all those sorts of things, and then all we talk about is productivity and this 4-day week that might exist one day and stuff like that. Then you see in 2023 the release of the psychosocial hazards and the compliance we all have to have around that, and why does that exist and all this sort of thing. So when I peel it back, what excites me is I believe it is a route forward for efficient productivity that brings us all back in line as a society for better well-being. That's what I believe at a high level. I am not the smartest person in the room to know how we do that, but that's what excites me, why I like it, why I like working with Acorn within HR is because you can get that direct line in there a little bit more. But like at a high level, that's what I believe it can give us a path forward to that if we do it right and we don't mess it up, basically. And I think there's a lot of custodians out there that have a big responsibility to do it right. So that's where I stand on it.
What do you perceive as risk?
The perceived risks, so I'll say with I'm a glass half full, not a glass half empty. So I look at the positive. So the risks are more aligned with the video that I shared with you and the CEO of Anthropic with Claude. So the risk here being if those models aren't safely built, the rest of us can't build off of them. So the risk is downstream, and it goes back to supply chain management and ethics around that since it's always been. So that would be the biggest risk of them not doing it right that I would perceive. But I see that as very small at the moment because of the approach that they're taking. Well, that's me. I'm always available. I will talk about all of these topics, capabilities, skills, anytime, how you implement it, what you're thinking more worldly, what am I learning, what have we done from the risk assessment, security, like all these things. It's my job to help. So please, even if it's just, I get Teams messages, everything like that, if you want me to point you in the right direction, or that cybernetic research or any of that, just let me know. And just confirming, turning it off. So.